You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.
Good morning and welcome to Loose on the Lead, live from the Saratoga backstretch on this Sunday morning. Seth Merrill, Steve Bick. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning. What happened to our
That's what I said, because they didn't play
fancy?
They didn't play last week either. Right?
We need a new opening.
Yeah, we're so good. We just come right in.
Exactly.
Come in hot.
We break running.
Nice afternoon yesterday, obviously with a lot of stakes action. We'll talk about some of that as the day goes along. Maybe do a little preview of the Haskell. And there's a good afternoon of racing here as well. I said at the top, and I want to remind people, low rollers today and tomorrow. Jump in. If you haven't had a chance, if you have, you know how much fun it is. $40, 10 into the prize pool. During the rest of the day with your $30 card, you make 5 $2 win place and show bets and try to win part of that pool. And any money you make on your card, you keep at the end of the day regardless.
Seth's the guy to beat.
I finally got my win last year, but I continue to plug away. Although I came a little late on Monday, so I didn't get to play, but I played last Sunday. I whiffed on Sunday.
That's all right. Not a problem. It's anybody in the contest arena will tell you that and you see it. You see it when you look in the contest standings and some of the top contest players in the country, whether it's mythical or whether it's live bankroll. There'll be days and you'll see their names with zeros next to it. It happens to everybody. Speaking of contest, Duke Matisse' birthday yesterday. They came in from all around the country, including Leo Vukmanovic from California, who's Big Leo. I was shocked to see him take a day off from Del Mar to be here. It was great.
An extra couple of purple tablecloths out in the backyard?
For Leo alone, you needed a couple of extra tablecloths. But, when they lined up yesterday, all the jocks, I thought at first it was to honor Duke's birthday. Because Duke is so generous to the jocks on Twitter. But no, of course, PDJF around the country yesterday, and a lot of money raised again. And speaking of money raised, I want to thank everybody that came out, including this guy. An unbridled affair for Captain CHS. Honored to host. We paid tribute to West Point and to Bill and Ann Long and to the team behind Mind Your Biscuits, and a lot of fun. I'm glad you came.
Yeah, I mentioned it the day after. Had a lot of fun there over at the Holiday Inn the other night. Nice dinner. You did a great job emceeing. The crowd was enthusiastic, large crowd. Nice silent auction, nice live auction as well. So I think it was a successful event. You got utzed out of the Pat Ewing jersey. Ewing, which maybe was good. I said I'm a Syracuse guy, but, he played for the Knicks, so I was willing to jump in. And it looked like I was going to get in a little bargain price, and some joker just one-upped me right at the end. Did you ever go to those silent auctions? And it's a funny circumstance because there's the turkey buzzards that sort of circle the table, and they're watching and on the items that they're bidding on, and everybody's angling themselves to the last minute, and then they always do this. They say, "Oh, just another couple of minutes left in the silent auction." You go make your bid, and then it goes for like another 10 minutes, and you're like, "Come on, close it out already! I want that thing." Yeah. But it was fun. It was definitely a lot of fun, and as I say, I'm sure nice success for the Captain organization. Very much raised a bunch of money. Yeah. All right, let's jump into some replays. How about that? Because there was some good stakes action yesterday. A couple of maybe we'll save it for Dale Romans. Let's tell you, Dale Romans is going to be here, and we'll spend a nice chunk of time with Dale. Obviously, we'll talk about Promises Fulfilled, who was spectacular. Both of the sprinters yesterday, both Imperial Hint and Promises Fulfilled, were mind-bogglingly good. And then we'll talk about what else Dale's got going. He had a great day yesterday, and of course, Promises Fulfilled
owner Bob Barron, local, a huge win for him, and they've been together, Barron and Dale, for years and years. We'll also talk to Dale about the 3-year-old scene. I wanted, at some point, probably Dale's perfect, the Justify and the 3-year-old males who are going to see, in fact, a challenge from a 3-year-old filly in the Travers. If you didn't hear the Wonder Godot news, she's going to run. Gary Barber and Mark Cassie yesterday committing her. Instead of to the Alabama, they'll take the extra week and compete in the Travers, and she is an authentic 1.25-mile type filly.
Mark Cassie thinks the distance hits her right between the eyes, and you look at the 3-year-old crop beyond Justify, and why not take a shot?
Well, and I want Dale to kind of kick around this topic, because it's been a very strange scenario that we touched on, I think, last week. And of course, Hofberg winning on Friday, and Nicodemus we should be mentioning as well. Do we have the Curlin at all to talk about or not?
Did not pull up.
Well, Nicodemus.
Oh, we do have the Curlin.
You do the Curlin. All right. So when we we could even do that, and we'll use this as the 3-year-old launching point, because it's very unusual to see what's happened here for the colts, who looked in the winter, as we were getting onto the Derby Trail, it sure looked like the colts were a serious crop. And in the middle of the year here, there's been this absolute snowmobile on mud. It has kind of ground to a halt. And Hofberg did break through to get 100 Beyer on Friday, and that's encouraging. Yesterday, a 93 for Tenfold winning the Jim Dandy. In the meantime, the fillies, who usually are outpacing the boys early in their careers. Usually the 2-year-old fillies, they have an edge, and then the boys catch up. This is an unusual circumstance. So why not take a shot in the Travers with Wonder Godot? And in the meantime, the rest of those 3-year-old fillies, they're going to keep mixing it up. So we'll see. We'll see where all of that goes, and I want Dale to talk about it. Marshall Graham is going to be with us as well. 10 Strike Racing, and not just 10 Strike Racing to talk about with Marshall, but also his role as an economics professor at Rhodes College and his invaluable contributions to the landscape of, frankly, horse player advocacy, talking about the financials of the sport when it comes to the tote. He has been banging the drum when it comes to breakage and to even further modernizing breakage. And it's
interesting
an
speaker at the
important topic.
symposium last year.
Yes,
He was on a
that's
good
right.
panel that kind of looked at all of that.
So
all
Marshall with us.
Yeah, let's jump in and get some of those replays going to yesterday. You mentioned it. Probably the most impressive was in the Grade 1 event, Imperial Hint. Just coming in with some blazing workouts down at Parks. I kind of liked Switzerland when I first went through the race handicapping, and I said, you know what, those works down at Parks, I can't go against Imperial Hint. Imperial Hint there, the number 4, swings wide and comes down the stretch. The chart margin, 3 3/4 lengths, 4 to 5. It just does it convincingly. I mean, as they go by the 8th pole there, you knew this horse was not going to get caught and just kind of runs away and hides. Warriors Club, which has the great ownership group, obviously runs second, and Sweet on the Ladies runs third in there. But again, it's Imperial Hint kind of stepping it up and looking pretty good in that older sprint division with a win in the Vanderbilt.
This was a spectacular performance, and as we said, promises fulfilled, which we'll discuss with Dale. What's amazing about Imperial Hint, what everybody talks about is, he's so small. He's not big, but he's not small either. He's kind of a lanky horse. He's got that thick sprinter's neck, but he actually is fairly long-bodied for a horse his size. So he covers a lot of ground. A lot of times when you think about a small horse, they got to put in 2 jumps to a big horse's 1. And that's not really the case with him. He does cover a lot of ground, given how big he is. And the job that Louis Carvajal has done with him is unbelievable. Carvajal is a wonderful story, and he'll be with me on radio tomorrow. They had to head back down this morning, left, I think, right at 10 o'clock, actually. This is a wonderful story. Louis Carvajal, as a kid, worked here at Saratoga. And if you didn't see what was going on when they left the winner's circle, you missed maybe the best part of the day yesterday. As cleaning crew, food service staff, exercise riders all came running to Louis Carvajal.
First grade one.
First grade one. He's only won graded stakes with this horse, but beyond that, just to come back to Saratoga, he was here when he was like 15, 16 years old. And to see these people come to him and embrace him, it was really moving, especially given the social climate that goes on in this country right now. Really, really heartening. And Louis Carvajal has about 8 horses. Ray Mamone has been in the game for 45 years, a Jersey guy, auto body shop, and kind of like Earl Scheib, the Earl Scheib of Somerville, New Jersey. Mamone lost his wife a couple of years ago, and it's really kind of taken the fun out of the racetrack for him. A lot of his horses were named for his wife, and he and his son were just absolutely delightful to be around. And Mamone, an institution at Monmouth, and been in the game a long, long time. He was talking about buying one of his first horses from Johnny Campo back in the late 60s, early 70s. But that was just as nice a win as you can get at this level. And certainly a good day for Mid-Atlantic trainers, because Chucky Lawrence later on dead heats to win the Bowling Green. So the Mid-Atlantic, always a presence coming up to Saratoga. And of course we had Richie Vega come from Philadelphia on Wednesday with Collegeville Girl and score a nice win.
And I'll again toss in Warriors Club, who ran second behind Imperial Hint, just because owned by that Churchill Racing Club. And I had Rob Masiello in here the other day, and he announced NYTHA, the New York Thoroughbred Horsemen's Association. He announced it on the program. They're going to try to start up a racing club program in New York. They got to wind up with Horse Lake Warriors Reward. That's been a great play for the folks down at Churchill, and bringing some new folks into the game with a live horse like that. Let's take a look at the Jim Dandy now. We'll watch Tenfold get it done. I thought Flame Away gutsy, got back to that doesn't want to let horses go by attitude.
Unbelievable.
Vino Rosso, I had that one on top, and he's sitting in that 4th spot now. He's dead in the water coming into the stretch, and he was way back late. He makes a nice late run to wind up, a decent 3rd in here, but it was a good performance by Tenfold. Lightly raced and just seemed to put it together yesterday, although did kind of race a little greenly, obviously, here.
He freaked out looking at the board when he was out there alone, and when he saw the screen. Ricardo Santana Jr. said he looked up and it kind of startled him, the movement on the screen, and that's not unusual. He's still a lightly raced horse, and that sort of caused the outward motion. But Tenfold, arguably, if we go back to the Preakness, Tenfold's performance in there is really obscured, and there's a scenario or two where if you run the Preakness a bunch of times, Tenfold actually could have won. He ended up getting into a bit of a tangle with Diamond King that day, and had to recover from that, and then came running. He is the horse that has a lot of potential yet. He and Hofburg, and we talked about this the other day on the radio Friday, I think, that if you're looking for steady progression, they're the two that are most exciting. Vino Rosso basically harkened back to the Tampa Bay performance, and Johnny V said that early on he could tell on the backstretch when he was trying to motivate him, he hated the footing. And it wasn't until they got around off the turn, and either he found a section of ground where maybe near the crown where the footing was a little better, that's when he took off. So I would not be dismissive of Vino Rosso going forward to Travers. In fact, things shaping up kind of interesting between Wonder Good Duck, Hofburg, and everybody else, Gronkowski and Vino Rosso, and whoever else is going to show up. Flame Away is just such a plucky horse, and you as an owner and as a horseman, you just pray. Because you don't know. I mean, their makeup mentally and their competitive spirit, some of them just go out there and run around. When you get one that likes to compete and gets annoyed when a horse tries to get by them, that's what the horsemen and riders and owners, that's what you're looking for. He is just unbelievable, gets another board hit in a black type race. Sporting Chance, another problem from him, and I don't know where what they're going to do with him, because he. You know, he's got maybe the little pea brain that I don't know. I don't know what Lucas is going to do to solve that problem.
All right, let's go back, and we mentioned it earlier, the Curlin from Friday. Hofberg, the number 1 horse in here. You said a 100 buyer figure for this one?
Yes.
He looked like the class of the field. Nicodemus runs second, Zing Zang runs third. I took a little shot in some pick threes with American Lincoln as maybe the pace setter on the track, and that one did set the pace early, but wound up finishing 4th in the field of 5. But Hofberg gets it done, wins off by a chart margin of 5 lengths.
Well, American Lincoln was very disappointing. Nicodemus, though, the other Linda Rice runner, was very good in his first start for the connections that bought him coming out of the July Horses of Racing Age sale. Hofberg, I thought this was a particularly strong performance, because he was not going to, going in, they had to know that they weren't going to get a pace scenario where he could settle back and come from mid-pack or come with one run. They knew that they were going to have to be tactical with him, and that they were going to have to stay in contact with the field, especially on Friday's racetrack that was an absolute speedway for horses that got out on the lead. So this was a very strong effort by Hofberg, sets them up beautifully. It's everything that Bill Mott and the Judd-Mott team were hoping for. He's been really cleverly managed. They took a shot early on, even though that was sort of out of character for both owner and trainer, and that paid off, and it feels like everything that they've done should be rewarded at some point, whether it's in the Travers, the Pennsylvania Derby, or even next year, or Breeders' Cup Classic, who knows. Hofberg, really, you're getting the most out of a horse that came along late.
Yeah, I caught up with Bill Mott when we were down there for Florida Derby weekend, and you could tell it was kind of, we're taking a shot here, but we think we have the talented enough horse to do it. One more I wanted to show, wanted to see the honorable miss from earlier this week, because it was a really nice performance. Finley's Lucky Charm, she came to the fore last summer with those races down at Churchill. I put Fabian on top, but as they were going in the gate, I turned to somebody next to me and I said, I should have used Finley's Lucky Charm on top. I had that one right underneath, but she looked great earlier this week. Chart margin of 2 1/4 here in the honorable miss.
She is terrific, and like Dale Romans, with a few of his horses basically moving toward the fall and Breeders' Cup, Brett Calhoun is in a tremendous position. He's probably going to start her one more time before the Filly and Mare Sprint at Churchill, and I've really come to respect her. At first I thought, she might be a little bit of a hobby horse speed-wise, and now she's really, turned into a tough-as-nails sprinter, and obviously our hearts go out to Brett Calhoun and the team, who lost Macho Citizen yesterday in his career debut in that fifth, broke both sesamoids, and just a heart-wrenching, and checked in with Brett this morning, and it was just no luck.
Seemed to be promising.
Well, Promise Me Silver, brother of Promise Me Silver, the multiple stake winner. Not fair.
Yeah, the highs and the lows of the game, obviously, this week. All right, take a break and get Dale in. You got anything else to talk? Oh, we should we can always do that. We can even get Dale's pick. But terrific card down at terrific card, not just in Oceanport, but also at Del Mar. You got the Clement Hirsch today, Unique Bella. You have Roadster debuting for Bob Baffert. You've also yesterday, of course, at Del Mar in the opener. If you didn't see Chasing yesterday, the half sister to American Pharoah, she was absolutely terrific. And Ransom the Moon wins that crazy Bing Crosby. It felt like 11 horses could win. All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back. Dale Romans is in the house. Stay with us.
Sign up today for Capital OTB's handicapping series and plan your trip to Las Vegas.
The backstretch workers are the heart and soul of what we do.
They're the backbone of the industry. People on the racetrack are very giving people.
It's a very oppressive community of people helping one another. We see it all the time.
Any help we need it. It's right there in their hands.
It makes so much easier in the family to have somebody like Naita to help them.
For 4 generations, Bruce Cerrone and his family have continued the 96-year tradition of delighting their local following and faithful summer crowd with the finest authentic Italian recipes. Classic Italian dishes made with the freshest ingredients and served in a home-like setting, where everyone is welcome. Some things have changed in the last 96 years, but not Pinnell's commitment to the finest in Italian cuisine. Pinnell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga tradition since 1922. 284 Jefferson Street, just minutes from the track.
We're back on Loose on the Lead on this Sunday morning, and Loose on the Lead, perfect, because we got the original runoff, Dale Romans. Congratulations.
Thank you, but is that in my personal life or in business, my runoff?
It's complete. It's 360.
Right? All right, all encompassing.
A great day yesterday with the 2 wins.
Great day. I think it's the first time I've won 2 races at Saratoga in the same day. I do. I was trying to figure it out tonight. I can't think of it. It is 26 years in a row that we won 1 race here.
Well, tell you what, now that Jonathan Shepard's streak was broken, you might be next to...
probably Bill's a little far ahead of me.
That's
probably
true.
A few active, but there probably
not by much.
There probably aren't many active trainers won 26 in a row.
Well, Mott, yeah. You passed him at Churchill.
Yes. I wish I could pass him financially.
By the way, we ended on a sad note, and I'm afraid I have to start a little bit on a sad note. Before I forget, tell everybody about Forrest Kalin, who we lost this week.
You know, my best Forrest Kalin, I've known Forrest Kalin since that day I was born. He was an institution at Churchill. A couple of quick things people don't know about. Like, he was a jockey before that. And he rode a horse at Churchill and won 2 days in a row. And he showed me the pictures when I was a kid. Same horse, 2 days in a row at Churchill. Evidently, the guy entered, and he entered back the next day, which you could, and the stewards said, if you enter, you're going to run. Well, he went ahead and ran the first one. They said, we told you you're going to run. He ran back and won again the second day. And Forrest was very proud of that. I mean, it was back in the 50s. And the other thing is, you have to take a test to be a horse trainer, and then you have to go, you have to go to the barn, and a trainer would give you a test on how to put on bandages, if you can put on bandages, tackle a horse, walk a horse, put bridles together, all kinds of stuff. I don't know if they do it anymore. But I was so nervous at 18 getting my trainer's license, and they sent me to Forrest Kalin to be my
mentor.
Yeah, to give me my barn test, and he was so good to me. And you could tell I was nervous. He said, "Come on, kid, you've done this your whole life. Calm down." And there's nothing. I put it all together. Looking back, it's not a big deal, but at 18, trying to accomplish your lifelong goal to be a horse trainer, he was awfully good to me.
Well, and it has not been a good year at all when it comes to some people like Forrest Kalin, Lynn Whiting, Jack Vanberg,
Manny Kaza.
Leroy,
absolutely.
Leroy, I hate coming up here. You know, we shared. He was down 3 or 4 horses the last 5 or 6 years, and he always just would be in the barn there with me, and we'd watch horses train together every day, and it's unbelievable. He knew he was sick last year and never told us so.
I know.
Well, let's jump in. Let's go to lighter topics and take a look at the race yesterday. Promises Fulfilled is going to be the number 2 horse here. As you watch the replay of the stretch run of the Amsterdam, number 3 Engage is going to make a little bit of a late run. Barry Lee runs 3rd. Strike Power Hood set the early pace, runs 4th. But boy, this was a nice performance. The chart margin is 3 1/4 lengths. What were your thoughts as they went around the track and then coming down the stretch for number 2 Promises Fulfilled?
Well, in the paddock, I told Louis, use the speed, go. And he kind of looked at me funny. I said, all right, use the speed, go, and then race ride from there. He rode a beautiful race. He let the The other horse go to the lead, and he came around him. But when Promises Field took the lead, Engage he wasn't that far off of us in the 43, so it wasn't like he was going to be closing into that fast pace. He was actually up there doing some work too, and it was going to be hard to get by. So I knew when we got turned for home, we got a lead there in front.
You combine this race with the Woody Stephens, and it's really obvious. This is what this horse was meant to do all along. Not that the early season success and going long down in Florida. We absolutely understood that, but he is, whether it's internal fractions or whether it's the way he closed here. This is obviously his forte.
Well, I'm here to tell you I'm going to run him in the Travers, 1.8 or 1.25. Not really. We're going into Alan Jerkens. Yes, you're very astute in the fact that he's a fast sprinter. And he did win the Fountain of Youth, which always gives you hope, and we did try to make a Derby horse. And I don't think in the future he may be able to go longer because he's still got a lot of growing and filling out to do, and it's very few horses have that kind of speed and stamina.
Well, the way he stayed on in the Stephens, it was just astounding. I mean, there was every reason for him to absolutely drop anchor, and that to me was the indication that that he was only going to be even more dangerous as we went up here. 6.5 yesterday, and then 7, of course, in the Jerkens. That's perfect.
Yes, you and I talked about it right after the race. Any horse that went 43 like that, press that hard, and still, have a respectable finish is a good horse.
No, this was outstanding.
They're a rare horse.
A couple of different things about this that are special for you as this horse begins to really, build up that resume. In addition, of course, to being graded stake placed at 2, then the Fountain of Youth, now the Amsterdam, so multiple graded stake winner at 3. Son of Shackelford, which means a lot to you, and Bob Barron gets a win in here at Saratoga.
That's pretty special too. Bob's a good friend. I've trained horses for him over 20 years, and he's raised in the Capital District. And you see that there's a lot of guys raised up here, and you can tell how special Saratoga is. It's special to all of us in the game, but for the people raised up in this area, it is really something special to see their face when they win a race. And him, Roddy Valenti, a couple of guys up here that I've trained for that live in this area and they grew up here. And as much as it's on TV up here and on the news, and it's a big deal for the Derby's a big deal at home, but that's one day of racing. Up here, it's now, it started out 3 weeks when I first came, and 6 weeks, and their entire lives. This is a special moment in time every summer, and this place has great meaning to them.
Well, speaking of Roddy, I pulled up the replay of the Delaware Oaks because I want to get an update on Coach Rocks. I couldn't have you here and not talk about Roddy's horse. Delaware Oaks.
Roddy actually is the one that introduced me to Bob.
Oh,
yeah. So it's all we're all connected.
So you knew Roddy.
I knew Roddy 20-something years ago. We've been friends for a long time and done a lot of business. People know, like claim horses for him, buy horses, and send them up here to New York, and they make the most of them. But
Red Ruby obviously has turned into a little bit of a monster. You've got a toy store now, the Black Eyed Susan, and as we see here, running second in the Delaware Oaks a few weeks ago. I just saw a workout a couple of days ago, the 8th best of 174. So I guess she remains on her toes.
Today she worked. She worked 1 minute and 2 fifths, and then last Saturday, and then back today. She is doing great. We're going to go in Alabama. Hopefully, the 1.25 will be the equalizer. I think the further the better. When we bought her, one of the reasons was they were working an 8th mile 2-year-old still, and I had her brother that won. That was a 1.5-mile turf horse in Prado Olay. Remember him? That's her brother, and he was a stake level marathon turf horse. So longer the better, I think, and that's what we were thought when we bought her. And it would be a special to win Amsterdam for Bob Barron, maybe the Alan Jerkens, and if we could win for Roddy in Alabama.
This leads us to a bit of a kind of a general conversation. Then we'll get back to some of the other horses that you're still yet to unveil, and some other spots as the meet rolls on. Seth and I talked earlier about this unusual circumstance where it feels like the 3-year-old boys are kind of in neutral here in the middle part of the year. And the fillies, who usually break ahead of the boys at 2, and then the boys pass them, the fillies have only gotten better as the year goes on. Any theory or any observations?
It's a deep crop of fillies, that's for sure. But the Colts, after you do all the work you have to do to get enough points to get in the Derby, then you go through the Triple Crown Trail. They've done a lot of work, and a lot of times you'll see a lull right here. at this time of year, and you'll see the whole second wave that didn't make the Triple Crown for one reason or another coming on, like you were talking about. Even a couple horses that didn't run as good as they should. You always see them come back and do well. But these fillies, you know, there's not a Zenyatta, there's not a Rachel. Maybe there is. I mean, Monterey Girls, but they're all good. There's a solid, real solid group of fillies. I think Mark is doing a very interesting thing in running back his filly in the Travers. He obviously feels like the Colts are inferior to the fillies, and that's a good move. We were talking about over days, and nothing else is good for racing. It causes a lot of discussion. Everybody wants to see it, and everybody cheers for an underdog. And it doesn't happen much in this country, but around the world, you see fillies winning these big races all the time. So, to answer your question, that I think we see the Travers and we see what Mark's filly does. It'll give us a real indication of how the two sexes match up right now.
Well, certainly the right owner when it comes to Gary Barber, who loves
He'll roll the dice.
action.
He'll roll the
he
dice.
loves the action.
He's good for the game.
Very much. While we're on the topic of the 3-year-old scene, Justified leaving the stage, and you know, maybe you can contribute to the discussion points, Dale. I find it absolutely bizarre that a horse like this could be a divisive individual that has a section of the race-going public and players and fans, unhappy or disgusted with the horse, or even on top of that, having negative things to say about the quality of his campaign. I find it bizarre.
I think it's just people that wish so much that he was still here for us to watch it, and that's the way that manifests itself. But you know, he's a superstar. He's a super racehorse, and you know, standing in the paddock with Bob at Churchill, you know, I know Bob well. You know him well. When you get him alone, he's talking. It's not one that's going to say this is one of the best 3 horses I've ever trained in my life. If this isn't really a true superstar, and if you got a little ankle injury, and you're not going to run your 4-year-old year, it's just bad timing. You can't rest.
Exactly.
If it happened in the spring, you bring him back. You know, you'd have enough time to give him off and bring him back for the fall campaign. Just think how much the insurance is about 4.5% of the total value of the horse, and they're talking 50, 60 million for this horse's value. How can you even afford to pay the insurance on him and roll the dice on something? No, and so hopefully we'll see a lot of great offspring, and he'll improve the breed, and we'll see a lot more just like him running in the future.
And that, you know, you talk about the breeding aspect of this, and I every discussion point I've had, I keep bringing up. You know, people say, "Oh, American Pharoah." For starters, Zayat had made the deal at 2 to have a full 3-year-old campaign with incentives, so that was different. He was a son of Pioneer the Nile, who is no scat daddy, and the whole structure of the circumstances is completely different.
Well, he didn't have an injury. He didn't have an ankle.
That too.
That's the biggest thing. He did have an injury too. He didn't make the Breeders' Cup Classic.
That's right.
Was everybody mad because he scratched him that day?
Yeah.
You know, that's one of the greatness of Bob that people want to say. He wasn't hurt that bad. He could have run that day, and he probably would have won anyway. But he wouldn't have probably won the Triple Crown the next year. And Bob did the right thing. I know how disappointed Mr. Zayat was when he couldn't run in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. But those little things, the decision in November of his 2-year-old year made him a Triple Crown winner the next year.
I want to ask you a question, the horseman's question, because I know you're a Kentucky guy, and I know during the summer a lot of 2-year-olds out at Ellis, and you've got some horses running out there. Ellis just sold, and part of the ownership group right across the street.
They took the whole thing over.
Yeah, Ron Gary did a great job kind of moving it to transitioning to where it is. What are the feeling of the horsemen on the ownership move?
Well, I mean, Ron did do a good job. He really promoted the racetrack, and it is going the right direction, and things in Kentucky are really going well. With Churchill's going online next month with their slot parlor that they built, or Instant Racing, which is a slot machine, basically looks like. Purses they're predicting in around Churchill to go up 20 to 30%, so we'll be running $75,000 or $8,000 maiden races, and we've got a good 9-month circuit now. We start in the first part of April at Keeneland, then we go to Churchill, and Ellis has become a solid spot. You run $45,000, $50,000 races down there. September racing to Churchill, and then of course Kentucky Downs doing what they're doing is incredible. And we go right back to Keeneland and Churchill. We got to pick up a little bit in the middle or in the winter meet with Turfway, and once that happens, we'll have a solid year-round circuit. But these people over here seem to know what they're doing at Saratoga Harness. They've done a good job too, and they're going to put a little more money into the place and continue the momentum.
No, you mentioned Ron Geary, and there was a moment 10 years ago where there was real uncertainty that between the tornado that tore the place up, and he had to rebuild a little bit, and everybody pulled together. Geary put some money in himself, and as he said, he's getting into his 70s, and the family's kind of pulling at him. Ellis is a lovely place, and for those that haven't seen, and you and I have discussed between you and Kenny McPeak and Kellen Gorder.
Steve Asmussen, he's unleashing them down there like he is up here, Bob. Alder, Eddie Keneally's got a good grade. It's the same group of people, minus 2 or 3 that are at Churchill that move over to Ellis now. And they've done it good. It's funny, though, Churchill sells to Ron, Ellis to Park to Ron. Then they buy part of Saratoga Harness, and then Saratoga Harness buys Ellis Park. I mean, it's all just a circle, isn't it? We're just shifting money around.
Circle a lot.
But things are getting good.
Well, things are getting good for you with the meet too, obviously. And talk about the maiden winner too, the Grey Nile.
It's Frank Jones. That's my man.
That's your guy.
And last month, his wife, 58 years, passed away.
Oh,
and he's been a little down, as you can imagine. So it's the first time I heard a little excitement in his voice again was yesterday. Again, at maiden 40,000. You can laugh at that all you want, but it is at Saratoga. Sure. That makes it a lot different.
Sure. You've got plenty of action coming up, and of course, with the Haskell today, there had been a little murmur that Mr. Freeze might go. 7 Trumpets coming off the placement. Talk about
King Zachary. I've tried to pull any of them out of the bag of tricks. I'd love to be there.
That's you.
This is a great day of racing in Monmouth Park.
You like that envelope? You like that envelope they slip you?
You only slip. Listen, you only get the envelope if you win a Triple Crown race. And believe me, Bob Baffer's thinking about the 75,000 he was going to get. They gave you 25,000 for each one. And I'm sure Bob's thinking about. But to go back to Bob real quick for retiring the horse, would you want to come up here and run against me in the Travers again? We had dead aim on him.
Now you were at the Belmont draw.
Right.
You were threatening them with that.
Yeah, no,
you scared them off.
We have a lot of fun him and I get. But the Haskell, I run second in it 2 or 3 times, and every time he beats me every time. So he's got this famous hot dog place. He says it's good luck, Max's. He goes and gets a hot dog. So when I run Shackelford down there, I go down there before him, and I said, "You tell him when he comes in, I was here first." So we're on the lead. Look like here comes Coyle, nails me on the wire again. He beats me again. And I'm walking down, and before he can get to the winner's circle, he yells at me, "You ordered 2. That's bad luck. You got to only eat 1."
Well, don't let him kid you. Before the heart attack, he used to have 2.
2 or 3. But it's 100 degrees. I got a broken foot with a boot on, and we're walking back to the barn, and I'm sweating out. Tammy's in front of me, and she looks back and said, "You just can't beat Bob." I wanted to choke her, but I couldn't catch her.
Too funny. Talk about the 7 Trumpets and Freeze and King Zachary.
They're all doing good. 7 Trumpets is probably going to just train straight into the Alan Jerkins. There'll be a little competition for promises. And Speed's not holding, we'll run him down.
There you go.
And Mr. Freeze, that horse is just getting better and better. And on the training box, he ran a 4 last time, and that's as good as any 3-year-old has in the country. But we're going to take the more conservative route, West Virginia Derby. Great race, a lot of money.
Nice.
We'll try that next weekend. And King Zachary is the one that truly will point towards the Travers if everything goes well.
Well, and King Zachary, it's funny. You and I talked, I forget who had won the week before, but you were going to enter King Zachary in the Wood. And I know you did. And I said to you, introduce us to King Zachary, and you were eager as can be, and the listeners remembered that, and they tracked him. Right. So when he won at Indiana,
no, he won at Churchill. He lost at Indiana.
That's right.
Matt Winn.
The Matt Winn. When he won, there was I got a bunch of things. I remember when Dale was on and said that horse will introduce himself.
Yeah, he's an exciting horse, and he's just going to get better and better. He's been a little spotty. He had a little issue here and there, nothing major, but still, there's a lot more to come from him. That race at Churchill and the Matt Winn was a super race. We went up to Indiana, and it was hot and humid and rainy. The track was funky. He didn't seem like he really was ever in rhythm there. Hopefully he trains well this week. We're going to do a little easy breeze tomorrow, and we can make the Travers with him.
How about Free Drop Billy? How about Tiz Mischief?
Free Drop Billy's doing really good. He had his second work yesterday, went minute and change at Churchill. We're going to try him on the turf. You know, his brother is one of the best turf horses in the world in Hockville. So got to give Billy a chance to try the grass, and I don't know where it's going to be yet. We'll see how he works next weekend. Tiz Mischief, he ran second to King Zachary. He came out of there with a little pressure in his ankle, but with that, we can take care of that and bring him back. It's not the same problem that Bob has with $60 million deal on the table.
How about 2-year-olds?
Good one running today at Ellis Park, Mr. Ankeny. I don't know
Ankeny?
Mr. Ankeny, Iowa.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
that's an Albaugh?
Yeah, I talked to Mr. Albaugh and the name of the horse, Mr. Ankeny, because he's built Ankeny. But that's a good horse. We got a bunch of them. They're getting ready to start coming out. Bam, bam, bam. Hopefully they pan out, and we can be sitting here next year talking about them.
Well, we always have Dale Romans on whenever we can. Talk to you on radio tomorrow as well. And nice to have Jake here and the whole family. When's Bailey coming?
Bailey's coming for Travers.
Nice.
And then I think she'll be back the next weekend. So
nice. Dale Romans, everybody. You can follow Dale on Twitter. You can't follow Seth, but you can follow Dale. Romans Racing. Next week. The meet's 2 weeks old. He said he was going to be for opening day. I'll take the over.
I needed a good picture, and you sent me one, so now I'm ready to go.
That's what it came down to, the picture.
All right, Phil. It's been good to be here. Thank you.
Marshall Graham joins us next.
Stay tuned.
All right, bud.
Looking for a fantastic meal? Stop by Malcolm's, a unique farm-to-table restaurant experience. Located at 617 Union Street in Schenectady, Malcolm's offers locally grown fresh foods, mouth-watering flavors, an enhanced drink menu, and terrific service. Malcolm's is a sure bet during Saratoga season. Make your reservation today.
Pick, bet, and cheer on live racing from Woodbine and Mohawk Park. Thoroughbred and harness action. The wagers are just the beginning. Watch award-winning broadcasts covering both breeds, incredible battles contested over the most unique grass course in North America. Experience the full fields with over 130 thoroughbred and 160 live harness days. Get access to free handicapping material and join the ranks of Woodbine and Mohawk Park players from all over the globe. For more information, visit woodbine.com.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad. Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Visit Rivers Casino and Resort, the Capital Region's only destination for live table game action and the hottest new slots paying out millions. And they're off. Horse betting is now at Rivers Casino and Resort with Capital off-track betting terminals and live tellers located just off the gaming floor at Van Slyck's. Get in on all the action at Rivers Casino and Resort.
Welcome back to Loose on the Lead. Seth Merrill and Steve Bick, and welcome back to Marshall Graham. We had him on a couple of years ago.
Yeah, last year. I was on here last
year.
Yeah,
okay.
last year.
Marshall, professor of economics at Rhodes.
At Rhodes College in Memphis, Tennessee.
Also a horse owner, and again, we talked a little bit about the symposium last year, where we was talking a little bit about some of the economics of horse racing. It was featured in some of the post symposium coverage, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But I wanted to pull up a couple of weeks ago, 10 Strike Racing as a horse owner, just July 14th down at Indiana Grand, little stakes race. Dot Matrix, the number 9 horse, we're going to watch a win. I had Liz Crow on with me the other day, and I asked her, are we going to see Dot up here? Because Dot Matrix, of course, on the PPs has a Saratoga win. She said there's kind of nothing in the book really for Dot Matrix up here, unfortunately. But this was a pretty nice win down at Indiana Grand the other day.
Black and purple on the rail.
Yeah, he made a nice move up the rail. I really thought when Flo let all those horses come up on him, we were in a little bit of trouble, but then the horse explodes. This has been a fun horse. I bred the horse. It's out of the first horse I ever bought. I claimed this mare for $5,000 at Parks. Her name was Aunt Dot Dot. kind of didn't know what I was doing. Raced her a few times, bred her to Giacomo, and then the Successful Appeal. And on the 4th breeding, I bred her to Freud, made her part of the New York program, and we've had a lot of fun. He won at Saratoga. Dot Matrix won at Saratoga last year. And then because of winter racing, we moved over to Brad Cox to get on the fairgrounds turf, and the horses really thrived. One is A other than, 2 other than, 3 other than. Really ran huge at Keeneland, and we came up to New York, butted heads with the offering playing a tough Chad Brown in the Kingston, and decided to go off and get him try to get a stakes win elsewhere. We're worried, especially at Saratoga. Chad's got a couple New York breds that may just be a touch classier, and so we thought, well, let's. There are a lot of other races in the country, and even though he's New York bred, and I would get New York Breeders' Awards, we decided to give him a shot elsewhere. So he won in Indiana, which is huge, an open stakes win for a horse I bred, and then we're going to go to West Virginia. So we'll be in a race at Mountaineer next weekend.
Very good.
That's that funny card that includes things like the House Speaker sprint race and the Delegate Cup and all that. They got virtually everything from the State House in West Virginia is on that card underneath the West Virginia Derby. It's pretty funny.
We're excited about going there, and the good money, and hopefully a race that we'll fit really well into. So.
Well, the Grade 1 winner, too, it needs to be discussed. Long on Value, your first Grade 1 win. We watched yesterday as Louis Carvajal and Ray Mamone got their first with Imperial Hint, but the Long on Value win, you could really, when you know somebody and you can really tell that it was just so special to you. To get that kind of a breakthrough win, and really you haven't been out there for all that long. I mean, it's not instant success, but it came quickly.
Yeah, well, it was very exciting. I mean, I appreciate the great work Liz Crow did in buying the horse, and the work Brad Cox has done with the horse as well. I really remember going through the Keeneland November sale, thinking about buying some of these horses off the racetrack, and I assumed he would be way out of our price range. I kind of, in my mind, I'd followed him. He was always a talented horse. I assumed that he would be $250, $300. So never in a million years did we think he'd fall to a price of $100,000. So we've got a great set of partners. A lot of my gambling buddies are involved. Pete Fornatel, Jonathan Kinchin, Nick Tamero, Joe Metka, plus some of our core partners. It's a horse that we could have offered to everybody and they would have taken. He's been a lot of fun, and we're excited because he'll run next weekend in Detroit. Which is shaping up to be a nice race. So.
Well, yeah, there's also the clamoring going on for him to face off against the Matisses, pay the price, the streaking turf sprinter from Florida.
Yeah, that would be fun. I worry a little bit about setting a distance up in the pace scenario we'd get in a match race, but it would be that would be fun to organize. I mean, we're not Breeders' Cup nominated, so maybe that's the spot to go.
The Contest Players' Cup.
Exactly. We can set something up.
Well done. Speaking of players, let's morph into a conversation. Had you on the radio the other day, really well received. And for those that follow Marshall or are on Twitter and haven't followed, he's a terrific follow under Truxton, Truxton Stables. And Marshall's economic background has contributed to any number of discussions about the horse playing landscape and the economics of horseplay. And the topic that you really have brought focus to this spring is the breakage issue. And we kicked it around earlier this week on radio. I wanted you to do it here as well. New York was ahead of the curve when Steve Christ was at NYRA, and he got breakage down to a dime. This era, it feels, with the ADW getting more and more of a lion's share of the play, it feels like there's no need for breakage anymore. And putting that lost money back in the hands of the players will increase churn. There's nothing but positives.
I agree. I mean, it's too long. We're in the 21st century now. There's no reason that we should be rounding down to the nearest dime per dollar. I use this example of Justify and the Preakness should have paid $2.89, but they rounded down to $2.80 to win. Now let's think about what that means. So you bet $2 to win on Justify, you win 80 cents, right? You should have won 89 cents. So that's 9 cents right, that you're losing out on. 9 cents compared to 80 cents, that's almost 10% of your bet, right? And so it increases the takeout 2 to 3%. It really hurts the win, place, and show pool. It makes the place and show pool almost unplayable, right? And so, you know, you may think to yourself, wait a minute, that's only 9 cents that you lose. But a lot of players, you know, betting 200 to win, 2,000 to win, that money starts to add up. And the win, place, and show pools are big pools where people churn, they bet big. They're pools that we would like to get more novice players, recreational players more involved with, because, you know, the pick 3, pick 4, tries and supers are really tough for a casual player. But if we made the show pool and the place pool more acceptable to play in, newcomers would churn more. They would have an incentive to learn more about the game, have more of an opportunity to win, and we need to create at least the illusion of winning, right? Someone needs to come to the track, have a good time, right, and want to learn more about the game. That's hard to do if they're in the wrong pools. And so if we got rid of breakage, if we modernized, it would make those pools much more appetizing.
And it really is an anachronism, because now with the fractional bets, you will see payoffs to the pennies in some of those dime wagers or whatnot. So why isn't it across the board?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, the dime supers pay to the pennies, so there's no reason we shouldn't again pay to the penny on all wagers. I understand maybe the concerns on track, but again,
well,
we
Steve
do
and I were
it
talking
already.
about this morning with a customer yesterday who was talking about that, and yeah, you can see it on track because of just the practicality of it. But the account wagering should pay to the penny now, just because, as I say, otherwise it's a complete anachronism.
Well, and a lot of people bet with vouchers or cards, and you know, even some of these racetracks might consider rounding up because they're making such a big margin on an on-track customer. There are a lot of different ways that we can handle it, but we need to move into the 21st century, and this is one of the things that needs to change.
I want to provide the background, because I'm sure that there's people that don't really even understand what we're referring to when it comes to breakage and the payouts and how it evolved. So lay out exactly, you know, where that is, and we're not. I don't want to make it out that breakage, because breakage basically is then split typically between the state and the racing organization. A lot of times that breakage money does go to things like backstretch, it goes to capital improvement, it'll go in some cases to breeding funds. So it's not as if that money is just siphoned off and out into the ether and into, although some states probably do use it in general fund. Like uncashed tickets. At the end of the year, uncashed tickets usually go back to the state as general fund money. But this particular topic would be a win-win-win for everybody involved.
No, I agree. And again, all it really is the rounding down to the nearest dime per dollar at your standard racetrack. So again, it could go as far as you should be able to win $2.99 on a show wager, and it's rounded down to $2.80. Now, New York, under Steve Christ about 30 years ago, changed the rounding to the nearest nickel per dollar. They actually made it revenue neutral, so it rounds down to the nearest quarter for bigger long shot wagers, but for short price horses, your increments are 210, 220, 230, 240, which is opposed to most tracks, which are 210, 220, 240, 260, 280. And so all these things, at least in terms of short price win horses, place horses, and show horses, make them very unattractive to play. And so look, there are many great things about our game. There are many things that need to be fixed, but I think this is a fix that can be made. And let me be clear, there will always be breakage, right? You can't round down the fractions of pennies, but why not, instead of 289 to 280, why not 289 down to 288 or 144 per dollar? Round down to the nearest penny. I get what you're saying about the fact that a lot of the money is used to fund different things, but that could come elsewhere. Again, there would be some shifting around of the way rebates are done.
But as you say, too, the churn may then mitigate that.
Exactly.
So the tracks would get more money that they could give to these programs that are getting money from breakage now.
No, exactly. And that's very true. That's what we hope. And again, you know, if I go play blackjack as a novice player, I may win 40% of the time. You bring a newcomer to the horse track, right, and you put them in the super pool, right, they're going to lose most of the time. But if you put them in the place and show pool, you make some win wagers, they're going to win a few times, come back, want to learn more about our great game. You know, they may become hardcore players like us down the road, and that's what we're looking for.
And that's something that you bring it up, and it reminds me, every year I'll bring family members or some people who are not familiar with the track, and I'll say, oh, I'll try an exactor, and they'll jump into the show pool, and we forget. They're thrilled if they get $2.60. And so, yeah, if they add a little bit more money to their wagers every time, again, they have a little more money to play, and more chances to get more engaged with the game.
And that's how I sort of really thought about this more. Is I was playing, Oaklawn has a 10% takeout on track for their show wagers, and so I was playing these show parlays, which were a blast. I'd start with $20 and I would build it up, and if I lost at the end of the day, I'd only be down 20, but I was realizing I was churning thousands of dollars playing the show bet parlay, right? And again, when people bet the place and show, they're betting in bigger increments, right? And it really can increase churn. And again, people's chances at winning. And again, you could be picking colors or playing jockeys and have a good shot of having at least, long run, if you did that, nothing but that, you're going to lose. But on any given day for a recreational player, they're going to have fun and then maybe investigate our game more. And that's, again, we need to get people into the game, and that's the place to start.
Marshall, yesterday had the pleasure of meeting your father, Senator Phil Gramm, and I asked, do you like the track? And the answer was a resounding no. And he said he has no explanation for why you love it so much. But you did explain how you got into it. And we touched on this with you last time we were together. And the course that you teach at Rhodes, which in some cases is probably introducing horse racing and the finances and the problem-solving skill elements. And it prompted a conversation very quickly that we had yesterday. The industry is constantly looking for ways to bring the game to a wider audience. And the one thing that I don't sense that we do a good job at all is reaching out to the group of people out there that enjoy mathematics, that enjoy problem solving. And you think of the Sudoku craze, which was very much a numerical and an equation. There are people out there that don't even know that they would enjoy this for the same reason that you said you got interested in as a kid, growing up in the Washington, D.C. area, looking at not the box scores, but the agate for racing results, and then figuring out there's time involved, there's dollars and cents involved, there's equations, and there's the problem-solving skill set.
Yeah, so first off, back to my dad, he finds it fascinating that my passion for the sport. So he enjoyed his day. He had a great day at the races. He enjoyed the big crowd. Who could not enjoy yesterday at Saratoga? But he does. It's bizarre to him that I fell head over heels for this sport, where I came at it with no introduction. I mean, I never got taken to the racetrack. It was totally foreign to me. But when I was growing up, I grew up in Washington, D.C. We had a district. We didn't have we had 3 television stations. Bizarrely, D.C. did not have cable television until 1989, and that's cable television was largely a rural thing. So my access to sports was the 6 o'clock news and the sports page. Well, the sports page had a huge section on horse racing, and I was fascinated by it. I started reading Andy Beyer because he was the writer, and it was all about numbers. And I do agree that often we're more worried about our sport being too complicated as opposed to trying to draw people into what makes it more interesting, especially numbers people look at. A lot of kids fall for baseball because of the statistics. I fell for horse racing, right? And horse racing is such a better sport than baseball. You can be actively involved, right? For a minute and 12 seconds or to 2 minutes, I'm actively involved with the horse. I own that horse for that brief amount of time and can make a decision and see if I'm right or wrong. And I did all sorts of experiments and tinkering, and I found that in my class, that students were interested, especially nowadays, these younger kids are interested in gambling, or what I call finding value. They're interested in problem solving. They really like learning more about horse racing. They find it very unique, something they know nothing about. But when you become a horse racing fan, it's kind of like joining a cult, right? And you get immersed in it. And I taught a 7-week course, had 35 students, which for Rhodes is a large number of students. It's a small liberal arts college in Memphis, Tennessee. And again, they really enjoyed it. And in 7 weeks, we could really only scratch the surface, right? There's, what we acquire in studying racing takes a long time to learn. And, maybe part of it is that if we look at sort of standard broadcasts of racing, there's a lot of focus on the celebrity and the fandom and the making of a mint julep, and not enough on the horses themselves and the jockeys on the handicapping. If you turn on football, right, they talk about the game.
It's all technical.
And it's a complicated game, right? We think about it because we've grown up watching it. Football's complicated. They don't dumb it down for us, and I believe you can do both in a broadcast, right?
The brain teaser aspect is what I love about the game. As a kid, I love those brain teasers. A train leaves from Chicago, a train leaves from New York, who's sitting in the third seat in the coach section kind of thing. And to me, horse racing is that kind of a similar adult angle where you try to solve the puzzle, then a minute and a half later you know whether you're right or wrong, and they pay you if you're right, which is beautiful. Coming from an economics angle, as you handicap, what are the factors you look at when you handicap?
Oh, I tend to be a generalist. I look at a lot of different things. If sort of in a typical race, I tend to be a class handicapper, and that comes from being an owner, right? So I look at which horses have run against the best fields in the past. I think, in part, speed figures, while great and while a great starting point, have become somewhat overvalued. So I'm often looking for a horse that's run a little bit slower but may have excuses. But again, probably a class handicapper first. But I like to use all different methods. And in my class, I focused on speed handicapping. We modeled bias. We modeled pace. We talked about Sarton method. We did a lot of different things that again, just scratched the surface of there's so many different aspects you can use to approach racing. And that's another wonderful thing about handicapping is there's so many different ways to approach it, and no one way is right. And I even tell people who come to the track for the first time might feel overwhelmed, is you can come to the track, pick jockeys, pick the horse that you like, how they look in the paddock, and you're not necessarily marginally going to be worse off than someone who thinks they know everything, right? And so I enjoy that part of the game. So many different ways to approach it.
Important question. Favorite rib joint in Memphis?
Oh, I like Central Barbecue.
Nice.
So Central Barbecue across from the Liberty Bowl, about a mile away from where I live. Excellent stuff. But you can't go wrong. There are a lot of different places. Memphis barbecue, Gus's fried chicken. A lot that's appealing about eating in Memphis, but not a lot health-wise.
No. Although, to tell you what, the dining scene in Memphis has gotten...
Oh, it's gotten a lot better.
Unbelievable.
It's gotten a lot better. No, Memphis has come a long way in the last decade, and again, even outside of the food that will kill you in a couple weeks. So,
always a pleasure to have you join us, and Marshall Graham has been just an absolutely invaluable addition to the landscape of the game, whether it's with 10 Strike, and how can they find more information about 10 Strike?
Well, there's 10strikeracing.com. You can follow me on Twitter at truckstonstables.com. It's my old stable name. 10 Strike, at 10 Strike Racing, at Truxton Stables. Those are my Twitter handle and 10 Strike Racing's Twitter handle. And we have Zanati today in the Monmouth Cup. Hopefully we get a nice trip and get a win today, maybe.
Outstanding.
Check out the course online, too. I want to sit down on the course.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm teaching it spring of 2019. So come on the roads, and we'll have a lot of fun.
All right, we're going to wrap things up for this edition of Loose on the Lead. We thank Marshall for stopping by. Good luck this afternoon.
Great, thank you. I appreciate it.
Steve Dick, Seth Mary, you got anything to add before we wrap up?
I don't know. It's a nice card today. Take some shots. Feels like there's a few offbeat horses that might be worth adding to tickets. Tomorrow, another terrific Monday, including the Smithwick, the rescheduled Smithwick, as well as the Coronation Cup. Turf sprinting tomorrow again. In fact, there's 3 turf sprints today, which invites a little bit of chaos. I think the weather is moderated now. That was a tough stretch the last Thursday, Friday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
And
but I think we're through
it. Has blown away, so it's a gorgeous day today. And don't forget to also, we've mentioned it a couple times with the Haskell today, post time 5:45. They'll be playing obviously on the simulcast TVs here. Lone Sailor in for Tommy Amos, Bravazzo, Core Beliefs, and the horse to beat, Probably Good Magic.
No doubt.
So we'll wrap it up. Sundays here during the race meet, we are live from the Saratoga backstretch. Loose on the Lead, Seth Merrow and Steve Bick. Thanks to Marshall Graham and Dale Romans for joining us this morning. We will see you next week.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.